Ouija boards. It's one of those games that not everybody can play. Some say it's just a game. Others think it's not a game, but something that can open portals to the other side, communicating with spirits of the unknown. But are they evil, or are they just a way to communicate with spirits from another world? Here at Canada's Great Unknown, we continue the debate with these great stories of real Ouija board encounters and experiences. So kick back, relax, and enjoy these allegedly true stories of ghosts and Ouija boards from areas you may know. If you have a story that you would like to share with us, email us at canadasgreatunknown@gmail.com. We also really appreciate if you follow us on social media. Twitter at CGU Stories, on Instagram and TikTok at Canada's Great Unknown. Also, if you could hit that subscribe button and ring that bell right here on YouTube, you can follow along every time we post new content to Canada's Great Unknown. Don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you think or stories you would like to hear. Hi Merle and Dave, my name is Stephanie, and I recently came across Canada's Great Unknown while searching for spooky stories on YouTube. I am from Halifax and wanted to share with you my story about what happened on my 17th birthday so many years ago. Looking back on it, it may have been one of the saddest things I ever had happen in my life. Back on my birthday, it was 2009. I had a slumber party where my parents had gone for the weekend to visit my grandparents in Moncton. My parents didn't mind leaving me alone, as my three best friends, who I'm going to call Carly, Janie, and Nicole, were joining me for my birthday weekend. Plus, my older sister lived a few blocks away, just in case I needed anything. My mom and dad left me some money so us girls could fill up the fridge with whatever we wanted that weekend, which was really cool of them to do. We also chipped in for some Indian food, which we pigged out on while watching a couple of movies. It was about 10 o'clock at night when, for some reason, we lit a bunch of candles around my living room and started sharing spooky and weird stories. It was shortly after this point that Carly asked if any of us had ever used a Ouija board. Janie and Nicole stated they hadn't, whereas I stated I had, and there was one in our games closet. We all decided at that point that I would go get it, and we would see what we could conjure up in conversation with us. Since we were all pretty unfamiliar with it, and even though I had used it before, I was definitely no expert. The only thing I remembered, the couple of times I used the Ouija board with my sister, was to say goodbye at the end. So that way, nothing could keep creeping around after. We started pretty casual, unsure of really what to do. Nicole really didn't want to put her fingers on the planchette, so she sat off on the couch with a pen and paper to record the letters that came forward. Janie, Carly, and myself all placed 2 fingers on the planchette, and we got going. The first spirit we connected with was a man named Jack. We found out he was born in England, and he died in 1879, a year after immigrating here to Canada. He passed away from pneumonia, and he said he wasn't used to this type of cold here. He told us that he came over with his parents and 6 siblings, of which one died on the ship, another passed shortly before Jack. Jack then said goodbye, and we thanked him for his communication. Excited by this experience, we wanted to see who else was around. Another man came forward. His name was Lucas. He told us he was 39 years old when he passed away in a fire. It was a kind of a sad story, as he died on Christmas Day after he fell asleep before blowing out the candles on his kitchen table, which caught some paper on fire and eventually burned down his house with him in it. We did find out he was never married and didn't have any children. He was a blacksmith by trade and stated how he really missed working with horses on this side. All of us were having fun playing around with the Ouija board when around midnight we decided to take a break and we went to the kitchen to pig out on the leftover Indian food. After stuffing our faces, we went back on the Ouija board and Nicole went back to recording the letters. This is where things got a little too real. When we started on the board, the planchette kept spelling out Nicole's name, like it wanted her to put down the pen and paper and join us. Janie asked the board if it wanted Nicole to put her fingers on the planchette too, which it then moved over to yes. Hesitantly, Nicole followed orders. As soon as she put her fingers on the planchette, Janie, Carly, and myself each felt this jolt of energy shoot into our fingers and up our arms. So much so, it felt like it kicked our fingers right off the planchette. With just Nicole's fingers on it now, the planchette started speeding around the board, spelling, "I love you." We stared at it in amazement, as it kept spelling out those 3 words, "I love you." We joked that the spirit on the other side must have a big crush on Nicole if it kept repeating, "I love you," to her. The board spelled this out about 10 times before the planchette directed over to me, then Janie, and then Carly, as if it wanted us to join Nicole back on the board. Carly then asked the board who we were speaking to. It spelled out the name Connor. Now, this is where the problem starts. Connor was the name of Nicole's boyfriend. They'd already been dating since the 8th grade, and everyone knew they were going to be those type of couples who live together forever. Like 75 years from now, they'd still be married. Right then, we all had a sinking feeling in our stomachs. "Why would the board spell out Connor?" Nikki asked. This didn't make sense at all, since Connor was still alive. The planchette then started circling around the board really fast before spelling out, "Got to go." Then the planchette went to goodbye and just stopped. We were all really weirded out by this and didn't understand what was going on. This was really hitting a little too close to home, and after that, we decided to stop playing. I packed the game up and put it back in the closet. Quietly, we had all decided to turn the TV back on and snuggle up to the couch by each other under some blankets until we fell asleep. It wasn't 15 minutes later, though, when Nicole's phone rang. She said hello, and then started wailing. No, Connor! Concerned, we all huddled around her, wondering what is going on. Nicole dropped her phone and started hugging Janie while crying uncontrollably. I picked up the phone, and it was Connor's mom, Joyce. I said, "Hi, it's Stephanie. Can I please ask what's going on here?" That's when my eyes started tearing up, as Joyce explained to me that Connor was on his way home from drop-in hockey when his car was T-boned by a drunk driver who ran a red light, and he was killed instantly. I'm sorry," I said, in my voice cracking up, and I don't even remember if I hung up the phone or not, as it fell out of my hand and I turned to Nicole to hug her and cry along with her. All 4 of us group hugged Nicole, who was in the middle, weak-kneed and barely able to breathe. Janie had grabbed her phone to call Nicole's mom and tell her what had happened. She and Nicole's dad were over at my place within minutes and helping console their daughter. After about an hour, Nicole's mom and dad had asked if she wanted to go home with them, to which she stated, "No, I want to stay here with my friends." And crying, wiping away the tears, she did say, "This was supposed to be a good birthday party." Then they put their coats back on, gave their daughter and all of us a hug, and then left saying, "Call us if you need anything." We all flopped back on the couch, red-eyed but not tired. All of us were silent until Nicole spoke up. "He came to say goodbye. He came to say how much he loved me. It had to be him. He couldn't leave without letting me know." And then, of course, as expected, we all started crying again, because it was just so surreal to what happened. That at that exact same moment that Connor had died, that we had been on the Ouija board communicating with spirits, and somehow he managed to find us, but more importantly, Nicole to say goodbye. If it wasn't so tragic, it would have been romantically beautiful. That was the last time any of us used the Ouija board. For some reason, even though our stories aren't spooky or bone-chilling scary like many others, it just doesn't seem right to do so. I think for me and my friends, we will never forget that night. It was important, and looking back, we're happy for Nicole that that night happened. She received a little bit of closure and a lot of love. Deep down, now that I'm just starting my 30s, I am afraid to open up that board just in case something like that happens again. For me, mentally, and I think I speak for Nicole, Janie, and Carly, it's a door that we want to keep closed. All right, here we go. Merle, Dave, I know. As I've heard you talk about Ouija boards in the past on Spaced Out Radio's Ghosts of the Great White North, but I have to tell you guys, I think you're going easy on that devil board. My name is Jason, and I got hooked onto listening to you guys when I heard it on the local radio station here in Mississauga about a year ago. Been a fan ever since. And when I found you guys created this Canada's Great Unknown, I thought I would send you my creepy story from when I was a kid. I'm telling you guys, those Ouija board things are evil, and I want nothing to do with them. Let's go back to when I was 14 years old. I was camping in my backyard with my buddy Seth, as we had a forest behind my parents' property, which was on Crown land. This was in 1986. Yes, a long time ago, but the nightmare of what happened is still just as chilling to me today as it was when it happened. Seth and I had set up our tent for a couple of nights to camp out in the forest. We had raided my parents' garage and fridge for supplies and stocked up on potato chips, pop, and snacks. Nothing healthy, of course. We brought out some flashlights and we went into the games room and grabbed a battleship, and we also came across a Ouija board. I had no idea how it had gotten in there with our other games. I never recalled seeing the Ouija board before, let alone hearing my parents play with it or talk about it. But at that time, I had a lot of friends who fiddled around with them, so I figured Seth and I would give it a try. Hey Seth, do you think we should talk to some ghosts tonight? Seth was all into it. Yeah man, this is going to be freaky. Let's go for it. So the game plan was set, so to speak, where we were going to conjure up some spirits tonight. What an experience this was going to be. Seth and I had told our parents that we were heading out on our camping adventure. I remember my mom yelling, "I will leave the sliding door unlocked for you in case you need anything." Even though we were tough young men, there was still something warm about a mom saying something like that. We went out in the back, set up our sleeping bags, and placed our rations around the tent for easy grabbing. We grabbed the 2 flashlights and propped them up towards the ceiling of the tent, so that way we could light it up, especially for our games area right in the middle. We started off with a few games of Battleship, playing a best out of 7, which, to be honest, I cleaned Seth's clock. After we got bored of that, we figured we would bring out the Ouija board to see if there would be any ghosts for us to contact. We started off really brave, asking if the devil himself would come join us in the tent to say hello. We both had our hands on the planchette, and at times, as we were summoning the devil himself, we would push the planchette towards each other and laugh at how fake and stupid this was. Seth commented, "This is idiotic. This thing doesn't work." I said, "Hey, let's just try it again and see what happens. But let's do it properly and no pushing that planchette. Let's just try the Ouija board out and see what happens." Seth agreed, and we sat back and then reached out and put our hands back down on the planchette. Then it started to move. As we kind of looked at each other, then looked back down, Seth then said, "We'd like to talk to the devil. Can we please speak to the devil?" The planchette moved on over to yes. Then it went back to the middle of the board and started moving in a circular pattern, counterclockwise. The planchette then shifted towards the letters, spelling, "What do you want?" "Who are you?" Seth asked. The board then spelled out, "I am the devil." "Sure you are," said Seth. I laughed. "Where do you live?" I asked. Hell was spelled out. I could feel the goosebumps starting to grow all over my body. I told Seth that I was starting to get a little scared, but he pushed on. "If you're so evil, then why don't you prove it to us?" I didn't really care for that remark. I said, "Seth, what are you doing? You don't challenge the devil. That's not cool, man." "Relax," Seth said. "Dude, this is just a game, and the devil won't do anything. This is all in fun." Just then, the two flashlights started to dim, then brighten, then dim and brighten again. We looked at each other. "I don't believe that was you," Seth remarked. "Do something else to show us that you are the devil, or are you too scared?" Seth then laughed. I wasn't laughing. At this time, I wasn't even sure I wanted to play anymore, but I kept my fingers on the planchette. The board then spelled out F-U, however, in the longer form. We looked at each other again. Seth then stated, "Come on, devil. Are you too much of a pussy to scare a couple of young kids? Make something happen. Although I doubt you will, because I don't really think you're the devil." The Ouija board then spelled out W-A-T-C-H. Watch. We looked at each other, and everything seemed to go silent. That's when we started hearing footsteps from in the forest. They started to sound like they were getting a little closer every step. The crunching of twigs and leaves on the ground were an obvious sign that someone, or something, was walking closer towards our tent. "Probably a deer," I said, even though whatever it was sounded like it was walking on 2 feet and not 4. But then, whatever it was started growling. It was a deep growl, one that reminded me of a pissed-off animal that I had seen on Animal Planet, like a gorilla or something. We put our hands back on the planchette. "Is that you in the forest?" Seth said with some uneasiness. The board spelled out H-I-S-E-T-H. "Hi, Seth. I'm here," was next. "Seth, I think we have to say goodbye." "Take it to goodbye. We have to say goodbye." Seth, although suddenly, was just too scared at this point. "I'm not touching that thing anymore." "No way." I said, "Seth, we have to," as these grunts and snorts kept getting closer. Seth quickly put his fingers back on the planchette and said, "We gotta go now. Goodbye." But the planchette went to no. "Goodbye." It went to no again. "We're sorry," Seth announced. Then it went to no a third time. Seth looked at me. "What do we do?" I tried this time. "Mr. Devil, seriously, we didn't know that this was real. We believe you're real. Please let us go and say goodbye." The planchette then went to goodbye. But the growling and the footsteps were still getting closer. Now within about 10 feet of us, we then heard the scratching at the back of our tent. We took our flashlights and looked, and what we saw was strange. It looked like there was a claw poking through the tent, scraping away, like it was just about to puncture it at any second. But then the tent held out. The heavy breathing started sounding, and grunting of whatever this thing was now echoing inside. We were frozen, quiet, afraid. The claw started to turn from the back of the tent, then going down the side, like it was positioning itself to go to the front of the tent and unzip the zipper. But then it turned back, scraping along the side again towards the back of the tent. Whatever this was, then started whispering, "Hi, Seth. Why don't you come outside and see if I'm real?" Seth and I started shaking and shivering. We both started at the same time, "God, please help us. God, please help us. God, please help us. God, please help us. Seth, oh Seth, come outside, Seth." We both started to cry in fear, but still, we were too scared we couldn't even move. I then yelled, "Please, God, take the devil away." And at that moment, I heard my mom outside coming towards us, asking, "Is everything okay, boys?" We snapped out of any fear we had, and survival mode kicked in. We quickly unzipped the tent and ran towards her voice as quickly as we could. When I saw my mom, all of the outside backyard lights were on as well, and both Seth and I ran into her arms. She laughed. "Are you guys okay?" "We're scared," I said. "Scared of what?" Mom reacted. "Mom, we played with a Ouija board, and Seth kept asking for the devil, and some freaky stuff really started to happen." She didn't say a word, except, "Come on, boys. Let's go inside and get you two settled down. I think all the sugar from the junk food got to your heads." We walked inside, and everything seemed to calm down. It took a couple of hours before Seth and I fell asleep. Through the window of my bedroom, we could see the sun was starting to rise as we started to doze off. When we awoke, both my parents had left for work. Seth and I gained the courage to walk back out to where the tent was. We walked around the outside of the tent, and we saw the scratch marks. Inside the tent, though, was another story. Our snacks were ripped apart. Our sleeping bag looked like someone had taken a knife to them. They were slashed all over the place, same as our pillows. But the scariest part of it all was when Seth told me to look at the Ouija board. I couldn't believe what I saw. On the board, there were the words, "I am the devil," etched into it. We ripped everything out and threw it all in the garbage. The sleeping bags, the pillows, and even the Ouija board. So you see, Merle and Dave, I can tell you this board is dangerous and shouldn't be used anywhere for anything. You may not believe me, but there is no way I will ever use one of those boards again. Nor will there ever be one in my house again, ever. The Ouija board can be a real jerk. Seriously, I will never use one of those boards again after what my husband and I experienced a few years ago. Let me explain. My husband Don and I are very spiritual people. We have a lovely little group of spiritualists that we hang out with for meditation and drumming sessions. Every second Friday, we all hang out to meditate and try to contact those from the other side or up in the stars. It's not out of the ordinary for us to pull out pendulums, tea leaves, tarot cards, or even Ouija boards to help connect to spirit. We have never had anything negative come through, because I believe it's because we take precautions to make sure that we are connecting with our higher selves to make loving connections with the spirit realm. Over time, we connected with relatives, friends, historic figures, and many others to see and learn from their experiences over there, wherever they are. I've learned a lot about the death process, dying, and the freedom of living on the other side, and how beautiful it truly is as our consciousness continues for eternity. But on this one occasion, the Ouija board got personal with my husband. You see, my husband is a hard worker. Don's a good man, an honest man. He's lived a hard life, but he's never been one to complain. We don't have much, but he has given me and our children a roof over our heads and food on the table. There were 4 of us sitting at a kitchen table one night for one of our group sessions. Don, our friend Carrie, and myself had our fingers on the board's planchette, while our other friend, April, was recording the letters that were being spelled out. On this particular occasion, the board connected with a spirit that sought out Don. The board spelled out that there was a message for him. The message read, "In 9 weeks, you are going to win the lottery." Don laughed. "The 649 or the max?" he said. The board spelled out max. "How much will I win?" Don asked, with some humor. $43 million. Now, that's an odd amount, I stated, as the Canadian lottery system usually goes up by 2, 5, or 10 million at a time. So this number just seemed very odd to us. Don, being as humble as he is, laughed and asked if this was a joke. The planchette moved towards the word no. Don then asked where he should buy the ticket and when. The board spelled out, "Your gas station," meaning the gas station Don always fills up at. Then stated to buy the ticket the day of the draw. After the session and the group night was over, Don and I were driving home, and he said to me, "That seemed really odd that the board specifically pointed me out to buy a lottery ticket. I never buy lottery tickets." "I know," I said. "Just do it. Spend the $10 and see what happens. You never know, honey. And with the board seeming adamant about it, maybe it's something we should do." Fast forward to the Monday before the lottery draw, and Don called me up from work. He was a little stunned. "Hi, honey. Have you seen that the lottery has been carried over for the last 4 weeks? And this Friday's draw is worth $43 million? I immediately froze. "Are you serious?" I asked. "Go look for yourself," he said. So I did. I quickly pulled up the Lotto website on my phone. I couldn't believe my eyes. Buy that ticket, Don. Can you imagine, love? What if this hits? What if this is real? Trying to be a realist, I said to Don, "Let's not think about it until it happens. Let's put our energy towards manifesting it to be a reality. Then on Friday, you buy your ticket." Friday came along, and Don bought his ticket on the way to work. He had a hard day that day and totally forgot about the lottery draw that evening. That evening, Don met me late at our spirit group as he had to work overtime. After some group meditation, we decided to do another session on the Ouija board. As the planchette started warming up, it immediately started heading towards Don. I asked, "You have a message for Don?" The planchette went to yes. It then spelled out, "Congratulations." That's when we all remembered about the lottery ticket. Don immediately jumped up and ran out to his car to get his ticket. He then pulled up the winning numbers on the Lotto app on his phone. As he started checking his phone to see if the board was actually correct and that he was about to become a millionaire, Don started reading the Lotto numbers. That's when his look of hope started turning into a look of disappointment. Looking down with some anguish, Don put his phone in his pocket and then ripped up the ticket. Then announced that of the 7 winning numbers for the $43 million draw, he didn't have a single number, not even one number for a free play. We all felt bad for Don that night. I felt especially horrible. As his wife of 17 years, I knew that even though he wasn't expecting anything, this was heartbreaking for him. Don sat back down at the table and put his hands back on the planchette. Calmly, he stated to the board he had some questions. "Do you think this is funny, playing with my life and my family's life like this?" The board spelled out no. "Why did you do this to me? I've never disrespected you." "Sorry," the board spelled out. "Sorry," Don lamented. "That's not even fair. Maybe next time," the board replied. Don immediately got up from the table and stated aloud that he was done with the board. He felt played and disrespected by the spirit board, and frankly, I couldn't blame him. Neither could our friends. We never played the spirit board after that, nor did Don ever want to see it. My thoughts after this were, if the Ouija board could play my husband just like that, maybe it had the power to make things worse next time. That's something not only me, but our entire group didn't want to take a chance on.